Hey folks, in this episode, I get to sit down with Shannon Squires of the Shannon Squires Creative Academy. We're going to be talking about post-processing. This is TWiP. Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Today on the hot seat, I have Shannon Squires. We're going to be talking about photography, as you might have assumed, but more importantly than that, I think, is the other side of the camera, the post-processing side of things, which when you see her work, you'll understand why I wanted to pick her brain about this. She's got it down pat and has created some amazing imagery as a result of her skills in post-processing. Shannon, welcome to This Week in Photo. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and talking with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. I mean, I love talking with experts that are passionate about their work, but you got to have that passion and the skill to back it up, right? It's one thing to be, I just love photography, and then, but the other side of it is I love photography and I know how to capture the image. And then the third part of the equation is the post-processing side of it, which is, I'm assuming why you created the academy, but I want to talk about that. Before we dive into the whole post-processing side of the discussion, for the folks that may not have heard of Shannon Squires, tell us, a little bit about who you are and how you got started in this art form that is photography.
Sure. Oh gosh. I mean, I'll kind of give you the short version of that.
Yeah.
So I actually started in high school with photography, and back then we weren't. There wasn't digital photography quite yet. So I started actually on film photography in high school. And then I went to the Art Institute of Seattle, where my first year was all film photography based. And then my second year, we started to dabble into digital photography. I was so overwhelmed after school with all of the projects that I was just kind of drained of all creativity. So I took a break and I was a makeup artist for about 6 years or so. And then after a trip to Europe, I started to get inspired again. I picked my camera back up and then just kind of dove right into my business. Now, however, I had been out of it for long enough that the scene of photography had changed so much, as well as the technology. Photoshop had changed a lot. Digital cameras had changed a lot. And so I essentially had to reteach myself everything.
Yeah.
And so I did. I dove into Photoshop, and I guess they say the rest is history.
Yeah, I would say, the rest is history and present, right? Because you're still, you're creating right now. And I want to, for the folks that are watching or listening to this on their morning commute or evening commute, I would encourage you to come check out the YouTube video and the blog post where we'll have some of Shannon's images posted, because you have to see the images to kind of understand what we're talking about. Shannon, I want to bring up one of your pages here on the site, your imagination gallery, I believe this is. And let's just start here, right? So I started with, a little bit of a tease about post-processing and retouching. That's putting you in a box, right? It's much more than that. You're a compositing artist, you're a retoucher, and as you just revealed, you have a history in makeup. So you understand contouring and all that stuff. Take us through the genesis of one of these images that we're looking at on the screen here. Or do you start with a blank Photoshop document and just go, or do you have a notepad of ideas that you start from? Like, how do you get going?
It kind of comes in a lot of different ways. The ideas. I do have a sketchbook where I put various. Oh goodness gracious! I am so sorry about that. Oh, I got an alarm on my phone.
I know that alert. Is that an Amber Alert?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. So anyways, I actually had, my ideas come from all sorts of places, my inspiration, but I would say that the majority of where I started with compositing really started with my children. My children, when I became a mother and they started to get to the point where they had an imagination, they would come, they would present these ideas to me, and so the one at the very top with my daughter and the lion, on the very back wall, there's a picture of her and the lion hanging on the back wall there. And that was my first ever composite, because she, at 3 years old, came into my office and said, "Mom, there's a lion in our hallway and he's going to eat us." And so this I'm
Mm.
horrible about writing things down, but I wanted to remember it. And so I turned it into a picture. And so I would say a lot of my creativity and my inspiration come from my children, but children in general, and um, their just natural ability to believe in possibility. Um, they haven't been told reality yet, right? And so they
Yeah.
still have this imagination that is just so beautiful. So song lyrics, color combinations, sometimes just the thought of really anything, any storytelling. And so I'll write it down in my sketchbook, or sketch it up my sketchbook, I guess I should say. And then slowly I start to kind of bring it together. As far as like the foundation of it goes, it usually starts with opening up a new document in Photoshop after photographing my subject, and then slowly kind of massaging the pieces in place, perspective, color wise, until you get kind of what you see here.
This is great. This is great. There's so many different ways to approach a conversation like this because Photoshop is this multi-headed hydra, right? That can do all these different things and none of them are incorrect, right? So depending on
Yes.
how you approach it. But I want to chat about, you mentioned sort of the evolution of Photoshop and how when you re-engage with the software is much different. You have to sort of relearn a little bit. Where do you think, or what do you as a high level compositing artist, are you thrilled by the new AI tools that we have in Photoshop, like image, like background replacement, sky replacement, extraction tools, all these things? Do they make you a better artist and let you get to the end result faster, or do you feel like they're taking away some of the process?
Oh, that's a really good question, because I am not really I'm kind of a creature of habit, and so I'm not really one to go and run to the updates. To be honest with you, my husband's a tech guy, and so he's usually the one that sneaks into my office and does all the updates for me. um, and so I don't nerd out on the new updates or anything like that, because like I said, I'm a little bit of a creature of habit. Everything I do is all hand edited, and I think there is something artistic about not relying on those quick buttons to do the things for me. I really love to do a lot of the stuff by hand, and so yeah. I mean, is it ruining the process a little bit? That's hard to say, because I haven't actually dove into background replacement or anything like that, as far as those buttons go. But I tend to do things the hard way because I love the result, and I
Mhm.
love giving it my all as an artist.
What is that when you say doing things by hand in Photoshop? Obviously, it's still a computer, so you're getting in there doing it not the automated way, right? What does that look like for you? For example, I'll bring up that page again.
Okay.
One of these images, for example, say this image here, which is outstanding. For the folks that are listening, this is an image of what looks like a young boy with his dog. Looks like a beagle standing on top of a suitcase on a runway with a World War II aircraft flying above, and he's got a red scarf blowing in the wind. A composite, I'm guessing, right? But
Yes.
what's your process for doing this? Are all the elements photographed by Shannon Squires separately and then you bring them in together? Or did you actually go to a runway and capture the child on the runway? I'm guessing this is maybe your son. Like how did this one come together?
So this one is interesting. I was actually asked to speak for a group online, because this was one of my COVID creations, basically. And so when I photographed my son, this was just still in my basement. So he is my son, and I just photographed. He's the only thing that I photographed. He had the hat and the coat and the pants and the shoes, and everything else was a digital element that I brought into this image, because I mean we were still in lockdown at that point. So I was presenting this to people, a class actually out in California, online, and it just kind of came to life. So as far as like doing hand edits and stuff go, I do work on a Wacom tablet. So I use my pen to do all of my editing, which allows me to have a little bit more control over everything. And so, yeah, I mean, it just was a matter of taking all the individual little pieces. And when I say hand edits, I don't use any actions. All of the color corrections, everything that you see there, there's no plugins or anything. All of it was done by hand to kind of to bring this image together.
Wow. So you're Please tell me that you are not going in there with the pen tool. Are you a pen tool Bezier path person?
Not. I'm not. So when I am actually doing cutting out my subjects, I use the quick select tool,
Okay.
and then I will kind of refine the edges a little bit, and then I add the quick mask to it, where it kind of pops up on the red screen, and then I'll go in real close and kind of cut out all the little pieces. I find that when I'm doing compositing, if you don't have a good cutout, you're kind of starting off in the negative before
Yeah.
you even get started. So it really kind of comes down to having a really good cut on all of your different elements.
And how are you looking at these shots? Clearly, you understand light and shadow, and the second shadow to ground the subject to the surface that they're on, and all that. Was that learned, or was it like did you just automatically know how to do that, or did you over time kind of figure out, okay, this is how I make this shot look more realistic? Let me apply what I learned on this one to the next one, and then sort of follow that iterative process.
I had a really good grasp on compositing just because I was a pencil artist growing up, and so I
Mm.
knew shadows really well. My dad is a pencil artist. My great grandfather is a painter, and so I knew the idea of shadows. Even maybe even a little bit subconsciously, I think I knew shadows really well. And then obviously contouring people's face and makeup. Really, all that is a matter of shadowing things, right? To give a certain look to the face, or change the structure of a face, really. And so, really, I had a good grasp on that. But at some point, I stopped and I said, you know what? I want to be better.
Hmm.
And so I reached out to my good friend and mentor, Richard Sturdivant, and he's phenomenal. He's been doing awesome things for decades now. And when I reached out to him, I basically said, I already do this. I already teach what I'm doing. However, I want to be better. I need to be challenged. And I said, I'm looking for a Mr. Miyagi. So if
That's
he's just
awesome.
become my Mr. Miyagi, he's probably my biggest cheerleader, aside from my family. And so I'm not sure I would be the artist I am now without him pushing me to like that next level.
And I wonder about that for the photographers that are looking at your work and they're like, I aspire. I'm one of them, right? I aspire to be working at that level and creating that caliber of work. How do I do it, right? Listening to this interview, should I take some courses on pencil sketching to kind of get a grounding in that, and then maybe follow that with some cosmetology courses to understand makeup a little bit better, and then take that into my photography? I've thought about that, actually. I've thought about to better understand makeup art, and makeup artists, and how to communicate with them, and what's possible and what's not possible. Wouldn't it be great for photographers, portrait and fashion photographers, to take a self elective, right, and go through that course to understand it? Or do you think this is that overkill? I don't know.
I think that anything that any way that you can learn,
Yeah.
and it's just going to add to what you do. Makeup artistry just happened to be part of my story. Sketching was part of my story to get, from the beginning. I don't think you have to have those things, but I do think that there's something to be said about having some other form of tangible art outside of photography and also Photoshop that really adds to your style and your technique as an artist. It doesn't hurt, and I always tell everybody, I'm like, you'll never stop learning. I hope I never stop aspiring to grow, to learn new things, even if it's something that I never plan to do.
Hmm.
I took a landscape course with one of my good friends here in Colorado, more so just so I could understand what he does on a regular basis, not necessarily because I want to go out and start doing my own landscapes. Never say never. However, it's just not where I'm at right now. But I wanted that knowledge. I wanted to understand what he does and how he does it, just so I have that kind of in the back of my brain. But anytime you're learning and expanding your art, it's just going to help add to what you do and
Yeah.
how you become your own unique artist.
And thinking outside of the box. Yeah, that's a really good tip, because I think a lot of people will think, yeah, I'm never going to take a real estate photography course or an architectural photography course because I don't want to play in that genre. I play over here, so why not just take courses in that genre? But you're right, it's all light, right? It's all interplay of light and shadow, and filling in little blanks in your knowledge never hurt anybody, I think.
That's true.
I want to dive back into your work a little bit. Here's a shot that I'm looking at, this Mad Hatter shot,
Yeah.
which is really fun. I love the color palette. I love the expression. I love the concept of the shot. Really, really well executed. Can you take us through a little bit how a shot like this comes from your mind to me looking at it right here?
That's a dangerous place to start, I think. My mind, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't actually even know. So I had this little girl. I work with a lot of child models in general, and that kind of started when I lived in California. There's a lot of child models out there that are always eager to kind of keep their portfolios going, their social media going. So this girl is here in Colorado, and she came to my studio, and I think I did have this concept in mind when we shot it. Her dress was red, and so I wanted to kind of make it a little bit more matching in color harmony. I guess the red was just a little bit too much for me, so I shifted to the color there. And I don't. When I posed her like that with the hand up by the face, I don't think I planned to put the clock there even, but I knew that I wanted her to hold something. And I wasn't sure exactly how it would all eventually come together. And I think the idea actually started with the top hat, which I have in my studio. It's actually pink. And then it just kind of developed from there. And that's part of, the storytelling process. Obviously, this is Alice in Wonderland. It's a very well-loved story. It's been done many times, but it was just so much fun because I think people love to grasp onto the imaginative and the whimsy, and that's why we love Alice in Wonderland so much, right?
Yeah.
And so getting to do this and challenge myself with all the different elements, whether it be, the fur on the mouse or the liquid pouring out of the teacups, and the metallics and all the different textures that you're dealing with, it was a lot of fun to piece together and challenge myself. So this was actually ended up being a competition piece that I used for Professional Photographers of America.
Oh, wow. And how did this place?
It did really well. I don't remember how. I don't think it actually placed, but they did actually put it into the Professional Photographers of America magazine. Used it in multiple ads, and it did what we call it loaned, or it went image excellence, which is the highest it can go without moving into the awards category. So it did really well.
Wow.
That
Congratulations. Congratulations. Yeah, that's gotta be a good feeling.
Yeah.
When you create a shot like this, Shannon, do you like the model with the hat on? I know the different bits are added in there, like the clock, etc. I'm guessing the rat was added in there later too. but are you photographing the subject on a gray background, white, green? Like how do you make your life easier in the photographic process for the future you that needs to be in the computer compositing?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain I take the long way around on everything. But this one actually was shot on gray.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't usually use a green screen. To be honest with you, I never really have. But the way that Photoshop works now and just its ability to cut, it's just so efficient with cutting things out. I just don't think that I need to worry about green screen.
Yeah.
Now, I will shoot on white or gray, depending on what the end result is. So if I'm shooting on white, it's going to tend to have a little bit more of a white haloing almost around it. And sometimes you can use that to your advantage when you're cutting things out. But I would say 9.9 times out of 10, I always use gray.
Always gray. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So many questions. And, just a slight segue, because I have so many questions, like we foreshadowed this at the beginning of the discussion. You have a course out on your process and how you do all this stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you created it? I don't want to get a commercial, but I think it's important because I want to take that course and learn how to do this.
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, I've been teaching what I do for gosh, I don't even know how many years at this point. And I created the Creative Academy because I wanted to be able to teach people what I do and have it, people that wanted to come and learn from specifically me. I had a place that I could kind of invest and give them my all with no limitations, right? I get to call the shots because it's my place.
Yeah.
So on my Creative Academy, there's multiple things. There's everything. So master classes are going to be kind of an all-inclusive masterclass where I start with photographing a subject, and you see me in the studio. I had professional videographers come to my studio and record the process, and then you see me move into Photoshop where I kind of polish everything off. And usually, well, and actually included in within these master classes, there's always an element that you get for free. So in there, the product that they get is they get a lighting guide, but they also get some of my digital backdrops that I included as well. This particular image was featured, and this was not necessarily
My
the
name
plan.
is Shannon Squires. I'm the children's fine.
That particular image with the girl in this one, I created it and I entered it into print competition, and it actually went all the way to the World Photographic Cup, which is essentially the Olympics of photography. And it got to represent Team USA, which is fantastic and a huge honor in and of itself. So what's so cool about that particular masterclass is you actually get to see me create from start to finish an award-winning, internationally recognized image.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is really cool. That shot right there. Okay, so we're looking at the beginning from concept to creation of something that left your studio and then went on to garner accolades from the unsuspecting judging public. Look at that. That is beautiful.
We just kind of pulled back the veil completely, and you get to see, there's no mystery there. You just get to see everything.
Wow, that is amazing. Okay, cool. So take the course. How much does that course cost? Or the academy?
So there's a couple of different options that you have. If you wanted to dive into just the master classes, those are $350. However, I just started a new membership as well, where there's a new video that gets released every single month. I actually, not even video, I should say course, because they are courses with multiple videos each month. And you can sign up for a semester, so 3 months, or you can sign up for a full year. The videos will expire, and the reason I set it up that way is because there's so many places out there, so many opportunities for you to learn, and so many people just get the videos, they toss them into a hard drive somewhere, and they never see the light of day again. So what I wanted is to have a sense of accountability for everybody that's signing up, so that they could know that they're on a little bit of a time limit to come in, learn as much as they can, and leave the semester a new artist, essentially. So the way I describe it is, you sign up for a university or a college, and you sign up for a semester. You have these classes. You have a set homework that you're supposed to do to make sure that you learn from your instructor. And when you get done with that semester, like I said, you're a better artist. So it holds you accountable. So I always tell people, if you're not ready to sign up now, if time is just not for you, then I would wait till the next month, or when you are available, to really dive in and invest in yourself and invest in your art.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, right? Because we see those various programs that happen throughout the year, the different bundle deals and all that, where you get all this training and education, and then it ends up sitting on your hard drive making fun of you and making you feel bad for the rest of the year after you bought it, because you don't have time to get to the mountain of stuff that you just bought, right?
So true. I am guilty myself. I know that are just kind of sitting there somewhere. So
yeah, no, for sure. I've got, I'm sure several hard drives back there full of stuff that needs to get from there into here, right? And I think putting that scarcity trigger on there, that timer pushes them over the edge is, a really, really good way to think about it. As we wrap up here, just a couple of things. I'll be, they'll come after me if I don't ask the questions about gear and all that stuff. So what are you shooting with? What camera, and what's your favorite camera lens combination, and all those good things?
So when I'm working in my studio, I'm blessed to have enough space that I am shooting with my 70-200, and currently I'm on a Canon 5D Mark IV. I have a R5 on its way to me right now. And I'm really looking forward to that. However, I have loved my Canon 5D4. It has been such a workhorse. And I think I'm only doing the R5 because it just seems like the next natural step in an upgrade. My 5D is still chugging along great, and I love that one. But yeah, and when I'm shooting outdoors, I actually use my 200 prime lens. I love that one. I love the bokeh that it gives. On occasion, I will use a wide angle at my 24-70 because we do have such awesome scenery here in Colorado. but those are kind of my go-tos.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm curious. The zoom lens in the studio, a lot of photographers that I talk to, if I ask them that question, like if you're a studio photographer, what is your favorite camera lens combination? Almost without fail, there's either a 50 in there or an 85.
Yeah.
Both fast, 1.8, 1.2 or something. Why did you make the choice to use a 7200 in the studio?
It's just, I love the 7200. When I first got it and I was shooting mostly outdoors, it was just a game changer for me. And I love the look of it. I love, I'm not even sure, but so when I'm shooting in studio, I don't shoot, at 2.8, currently. I did recently get some constant lights, and I'm going to play with, a little bit more shallow depth in studio. And I think I do like it for its low light capabilities. However, I just think I have always just held that in my hands. I've never liked the 50, to be honest with you. I've never had great luck with my 50s. I do love my 85, so on occasion I will, bring that out, but it feels different in my hands. And so I've always liked the look of my 70 to 200.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, it's the right tool for the right job for the right person, right? Yeah, it's very situational and subjective. And then the other side of that coin, of course, and we talked about this a little bit. Obviously, Photoshop is in your post-processing stack. Any other tools that you're using that you would take with you to a desert island if you had to retouch a bunch of photos out there?
If we're talking about compositing, the only other thing I would say that I would need on a desert island is Pixel Squid. I love Pixel Squid. If you haven't heard of Pixel Squid, it is a plugin, but it's not for editing necessarily. It actually has 3D renderings of various objects that they had pieced together, and you can actually put those into your image in Photoshop and adjust the perspective on it and tilt them every different which way. So if you haven't seen Pixel Squid, it's a pretty cool little tool to use if you are compositing.
Oh, that's interesting. I got to check that out. So here's a question. I'm sure I could just look on their website, but does it do, if I say, you know what, like your Mad Hatter shot, right? I want a cup of tea, and I want to render that out. Can I render also the animation of the wisps of smoke coming out of that tea, or only the still image?
So you can do, oh gosh, there's so many things. They have smoke or steam or there's so many things in Pixel Squid, and you can tilt it and turn it every which way and place it into your image. Now, there's going to be a fair amount of work that you are going to have to do to make it look a little bit more on the realistic side, but it's a really great start to get from point A to B. But no, it's a pretty cool little plugin, and it's kind of mind blowing when you put it in there. Now, you do have to kind of finesse it just a little bit because they don't always have like fine turns necessarily, so the perspective can be off just a little bit because it kind of jumps from one view to another, but there's like these micro turns in between that they don't necessarily have. But it's a pretty cool program. If you composite, you should definitely check it out.
I'm buying it. Yeah, that's it. I'm buying it. 'Cause that sounds really interesting. Because I think a lot of compositors, and you tell me you're more of a compositor than I am. I'm a compositor that is dangerous, right? I know enough about it to make a mess. But even with that limited experience in compositing, one of the things that I found, like if you have this great idea that you want to do this and it's got to have this in it and this or whatever, then you got to either go shoot or find the images, on stock photography sites and license them or otherwise get possession of them to incorporate into your work. You can't always find the right thing, right? So I need a teacup that's just like this, that has this. If I could just be able to render that out at the exact angle and then bring that in and finish it, that is pretty dang cool. And that's what Pixel Squid does, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Pixel Squid. So I'll go back and forth between Pixel Squid and Shutterstock to find exactly what I need.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right. So with all this stuff you have going on, you're obviously actively shooting. You've got the course going on where people can get knowledge from your brain that way. What about in-person stuff? I'm looking on your website now. It looks like you have a workshop. Is that still active? The photograph to embellishment workshop?
Yeah, so that's Richard Sturdivant. He is, like I said, my mentor. And what we're doing is this coming, next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend, we are teaching a class in my studio here in Colorado Springs. And basically what it is we'll start by doing some editing and prepping images to be embellished. And like I said before, anytime you're investing yourself into some sort of a tangible art, it's just going to help you in the long run as a photographer in your digital art. So we will be printing all of these, printing prints after we edit them, and then hand embellishing them with different acrylics, pastels, colored pencils, lacquers, and it's just kind of a nice way to polish off an image after you've created, this art for your clients, and have it be a truly unique, one of a kind piece that you hand touched and hand finished for them.
So cool. So cool. All right. And that's coming up. That's next weekend, right?
That's next weekend. Yeah. Yeah. But I'll be also, teaching for West Coast School in North Carolina. I'll be teaching at Focus Convention in Florida. I'll also be teaching at Sync. And you might see me at a few other PPA events.
You are all over the place. That's crazy.
Yeah. I am all over the place.
Are you traveling now that the world is starting to thaw, then freeze, then thaw, then freeze? Are you out, or are you still doing things remotely?
I am out. I actually just got done teaching a full week class at Texas School. So yeah, life is going.
That is cool. That's cool.
Yeah, full steam ahead now.
No, yeah, I hear you. Right here, it's back at you. There's so much to talk about. We'll have to do a part 2 and a part 3 of this, because I have a list of questions. I got through a couple of them because there's so much to dive in with you. But if people want to check out the work, they want to go follow you, they want to, sign up for the Academy, or maybe if they're in the local area when this publishes, go to the workshop. Where's the best place for them to go to connect with you and all the things that you're doing?
So I guess the main page would be my Shannon Squires photography website, would be a really great place to start. If you're looking for the Creative Academy, you can even access the Creative Academy through my Shannon Squires photography website, in addition to reaching out to me directly. That's a great way to connect. I also have a Facebook group, Shannon Squires Creative Academy, for a lot of people who are in my academy already and learning. But yeah, you can find me all over the place, but my website would be a really great place to start.
Yeah, and we'll link to everything in the description for this video, as well as in the blog post where this video will live. Shannon, thank you for coming on. Appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time. This was worth the wait, because I flubbed a couple of our meetings before, and now we're finally on doing the interview. Yes. And good things come, right, to those who wait. So.
Yep. That is so true. Absolutely. It's a pleasure, and I appreciate your patience with me as well, and my alarm that went off. So
no, they'll never know. Trust me.
I appreciate it.
All right, Jen, you have a good rest of your week, and have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Thank you.
This is TWiP.